live at TPM with Peter, Mario, and John. How are you all doing?
All good.
Great.
Very well, thank you.
Great. I'm super excited to be here because we are talking about the 25th anniversary of TPM. We're going to talk all about the origins, what we've learned, what we've seen, what we're going to see into the future. So before we do that, why don't you all introduce yourself? We'll start with Peter. Tell us who you are, what you do, and what's the most exciting thing at TPM for you this year?
So Peter Tershwell, I lead the Journal of Commerce business, and TPM is an outgrowth of the Journal of Commerce, which was the daily shipping newspaper of New York City, which is going to be 200 years old in just a couple of years. And I'm happy to be here and excited about 25 years of TPM.
25 years and record number, I think, almost in attendance.
Record numbers of BCO companies, record numbers of attendees. So it's a good, strong event this year.
Congratulations. All right, Mario, over to you.
Yes, I'm the CEO of Port Long Beach, and obviously as of right now, the 2025 numbers, we're the top container port in the country as of January. But,
congratulations.
those numbers change. Los Angeles has more berth space than we do. But anyway, very proud to be here. And also for the city of Long Beach, I want to thank TPM. We've been the city host for 24 to 25 years. Wow. So again, we're very excited by the mere fact that TPM's here. Again, Long Beach being the great port that it is. And of course, probably the most significant gateway in the country. And now, of course, the center of a maritime hub as a city. Again, the city is 496,000 people. So with that, we are most definitely a port city.
Amazing. Well, last but not least, John.
John Monroe of John Monroe Consulting. And I represent Milky Way in China, the largest chemical logistics company. I run a cloud-based platform for order management. And TPM is the center of my universe. I spent 3 months planning to come here because it's the only place you can meet everybody in one location. So it's probably the most exciting. I'm here for 2 weeks, not 4 days. So.
Well, and you should see his agenda, color-coded and very busy. We're lucky to have all three of you, but thank you so much for making the time. All right, and you were on stage, I think, right? John was on stage the first TPM?
Yes, John was on the program the very first year of TPM.
Do you remember what you were speaking about?
No, but I remember we were in, I can't remember if it was LAX or we were in a hotel. It was one room. You had one aisle. There were uncomfortable chairs on each side, and we had one session at a time. And now here you're at TPM, and you have multiple sessions, large screens, 4,500 people. All the hotels are full, and you have everybody, in a corner at a breakfast, at dinner, at lunch, walking back and forth, meeting people you haven't seen in years. But the most important thing here, I think, is if you prepare yourself at TPM, you've got incredible meetings. Everybody's open to new things, and I think that's different than what we had in the beginning. It's really emerged.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Now, I want to get into the origin story with you, Peter. As chair of TPM and vice president of S&P Global Market Intelligence, trace the origins for us. What has TPM looked like from the beginning and throughout the history?
It was a simple idea, and the idea has not changed in all this time. And the idea was that we, as journalists, I'm a journalist covering the industry along with my team. And back in 2001, we said, well, why don't we invite our sources up on stage? Nice. And just like we would decide on what sources we would use for an article, we would decide what speakers we wanted to talk about what subjects based on our knowledge of their knowledge, and we said that we will put a conference on for the benefit of BCOs, cargo owners, because the Journal of Commerce throughout its history had always addressed itself to cargo owners, importers, exporters, traders, going way back to the early 1800s. And so addressing ourselves to BCOs was a very natural thing. It was always what we had done, and then so we just started putting on our program without any vision, really, without any thought about what it would become. We timed it in this time of year because of our knowledge of the cycle of contract negotiations in the Transpac eastbound trade. So that actually hasn't changed, to be honest with you. It's changed somewhat, but not all that much. And the conference just grew without any real plan, other than, oh my God, we got this many people, we better have a bigger space this year, or this or that. So that's the origin story.
Great.
Quite unglamorous.
No vision, no plan, but here we are with record numbers today.
And a group of journalists who aren't even really in the events business.
But really, you were thinking about your customer, your consumer of the content, and trying to bring that to life.
Yeah.
And I want to commend you for that, because that's really great. And really the reason behind publishing and content and getting information out there.
That's a good way to put it.
So Mario, the Port of Long Beach has hosted, I think, all but one of the 25 editions of TPM. What has TPM meant to you, the port, and the city of Long Beach?
Well, I think, again, Long Beach is a port city. And what TPA has meant for Long Beach, again, number one, we're sitting here right adjacent to the largest container harbor complex in the country. I mean, within our view here is the state-of-the-art terminal that we built, the Long Beach Container Terminal. So I think it's most definitely a city that's known as a maritime hub. And I think that's what's exciting for Port of Long Beach. I want to very much appreciate Peter's leadership, TPM, S&P Global, for continuing to have here TPM as the landmark conference for the city. And as far as the port's concerned, I think, again, one of the reasons we have record attendance, because I think people see that it's a beautiful city, it's a beautiful port, and the venue is just perfect for the conversations that we have every year.
Yeah, the sunsets with the port in the background are amazing.
Yes,
it's
absolutely.
one of my favorite things about coming here is seeing the port, the cranes in the background during a sunset.
And it's weather friendly, so to speak.
Yeah, you can see.
At this time of year.
Sunny and beautiful. So John, we already mentioned that you were one of the speakers at the first TPM. And so you've been with TPM since the very beginning. Can you trace your own personal journey and how it has aligned with TPM and what that's looked like?
I've thought about this a lot since you sent me that email. And I think I've been a sponsor 4 different times. Mm-hmm. But when I think back, the first TPM was was a sheet of paper. That was the agenda. And when they went to an actual brochure, and I was involved with Top Ocean, I thought, let me take the back page, because if somebody flips it on a table, there's a 50-50 chance they'll have my ad on there. And then, of course, Peter shrunk it, which really frustrated me, because then it was a small pamphlet.
And then got rid of it entirely.
Yeah, then you got rid of it entirely. And then I think it was at Top Ocean, I had a sponsorship there. And then I went over to Duell, and I think I had the first tech booth there, because in 2017, I think it was, or 16, I had a big screen here showcasing what I built for Duell, and it was 3D. And it really woke me up to the impact of TPM, because I also had a booth at Relay, and there was no comparison between the two. And what you really have here is you have the entire maritime industry. So if you're doing anything with container shipping, you've got to be here. And then, of course, I had the opportunity to set up and run the Alibaba-backed transfer shipping. So then I became a bigger sponsor, and I had all the stairs labeled with transfer. I had a party at the Opera. So in a way, I've sort of evolved with TPM, and it's impacted my journey as I've moved into technology, as I've done various things, and it's one of the most exciting points in my year.
And those sponsorships on the stairs are quite unique.
They are. I had to have
those.
I had to have those.
Great. Well, Peter, how do you think that TPM fits into the global supply chain ecosystem? Like, what do you think TPM means for our industry?
So, I don't know in a way, because I'm only a journalist covering the industry. But I know from hearing from many people who come here that that there's an opportunity to engage in substantial networking, and something that John said was, I thought, really relevant, where when you come here, people are open to new ideas. Mm-hmm. So I actually think that putting on a really intense program with a lot of ideas coming off the stage in various sessions, what I hope, and I don't really know if it's true or not, that it would help to foster an environment of ideas, an environment of openness and of collaboration and of community, so that would set the table for really, really good meetings. Like a meeting that something gets done at the meeting. Mm-hmm. Like we're in an environment that is very supportive of that get together being, meaningful for the participants. In other words, walking away with something that is going to be taken forward, as opposed to nice to meet you, and I don't think we have anything
If I can
in common.
interject, I think that happens today, Peter. I don't think you realize it because you're busy running the conference. But if you look at all these hotels and you look at the restaurants, that is happening today. People are meeting and getting things done. I will walk away with a lot of takeaways, as will many people here.
Yeah.
But they're all done, individually in the meetings, and that's why I think it's so important for preparation. If you don't prepare and you just show up, it's a good event, but you can't take away anything.
Yeah.
And I think the content is bar none. There are a lot of people that come to TPM to learn about what's going on, and you can tell that comes from a journalistic perspective. We really put thought and intention into the conversations that are happening on stage so that you can foster innovation in the community and in the global ecosystem.
Well, and actually it's very self-interested, to be honest with you. So, we put on a panel. Why? Because we want to know what our speakers are going to say so that we can report on it.
Right.
We want news. And so therefore we're going to ask questions that are going to draw out speakers in ways that are relevant to us. And we assume if they're relevant to us, then they're going to be relevant to other people. So we are actually in a great position as journalists to put on a program, because we have a very good sense of what's interesting and what's not.
Right. Absolutely. All right, Mario, Long Beach is celebrating its own anniversary. I think it's the 20th year of its Green Port policy. Can you describe that initiative for us and, how that's been driven, reflect on how those initiatives have changed the port, and just describe it to us?
No, thank you for the question. Well, first of all, whether it's this year or in recent years, a big conversation piece at TPM is emission reduction, decarbonization, alternate fuels. So clearly the world, or at least the industry, has embraced the concept of we need to do something to decarbonize the transportation corridors. So for Long Beach, I would like to say that this started in 2005 when we released a cutting edge policy known as the Green Port Policy. We said we were going to be a green port, and we're on the cusp of being a zero emission port. So I think it's been 20 years of leading green. And last I'll leave with three numbers: 92, 71, 98. What we've been able to do at the Port of Long Beach and in this harbor complex, we've reduced PM, particulate diesel soot, by 92%. We reduced NOx by 71% and SOx by 98%.
Wow.
It's been a collaborative effort. The Port of Long Beach, the truckers, the railroads, the marine terminal operators, our sister port across the bay, Los Angeles. So it's a great story for the gateway, and there's no other gateway in the United States or even the world that has accomplished what we've been able to do. And again, as many people know, our quest is zero emissions. So I think it's a great anniversary to celebrate, and we're not done in terms of our mission.
And Mario sells himself short a little bit. The LA Long Beach Gateway is not just the largest gateway in the US, it's the largest gateway in the Western Hemisphere. And so it's a gateway of global importance, which is why TPM being located here has always made a lot of sense in the bigger picture.
Well, and congratulations. I think 2005 is before any of us were really talking about it.
That's correct. I think poor Lummi jumped out ahead of the curve, so to speak. And but we like to do that, whether it's in relation to environmental initiatives, but also cargo movement. And we can talk more about that later.
Great. Well, John, you've been involved in virtually every type of role connected to the containerized supply chain over the last 25 years. What do you see as the single most important change to our industry in that time?
I think without a doubt the emergence of China as the manufacturing center of the world. It's driven everything we do. I think it's driven what Mario's done here in the Port of Long Beach. It's driven the size of the vessels, the size of the ports. The emergence of China has sort of been a game changer for sourcing and for products that we buy. So that is the single, I think, most important evolution event.
Great. Well, thank you for that. Now, Peter, I want to get into story time. Hopefully you can remember, but what would you say are maybe 2 or 3 of the most memorable and iconic moments in TPM history?
Well, there have been a couple of them. One of them was when Brad Jacobs he's a big trucking CEO.
Yep.
And the Teamsters were pretty pissed off at him. And he was giving his keynote speech, and the Teamsters broke into the convention center for the purpose of staging a protest.
Wow.
And they were loud, and they were very vocal in expressing their point of view. And Brad, who was the CEO of a company called XPO, was really mad about this. And he got up in his keynote speech and was pretty fired up.
Okay, a little spicy.
About the Teamsters, and made any number of very tough comments about the Teamsters, which of course, from our point of view, was highly newsworthy. So we thought it worked out well. The colleagues we work with who organized the event thought less highly of what happened than we did. So there was that. Another memorable moment was Harold Daggett, the head of the ILA, who came here and got up in front of the entire audience, and he was concerned at that point about equipment leasing companies, chassis leasing companies, taking over chassis fleets from ocean carriers. And the suggestion that came along with that it would no longer be ILA workers doing the maintenance and repair on the chassis. And he was pretty fired up about that. And he expressed his displeasure about certain organizations out in the industry that he thought were undermining the interests of his members. And he uses colorful language to express his views, and that created a certain amount of sensation, particularly because he was indicating that it was not out of the question that there could be some labor disruption associated with his concerns. So those were just 2 memorable moments, and there were a few others too.
So we've had some spicy speakers up on stage at TPM. I think we've had some this year as well on day 1 too. So I can't wait to hear about that one, maybe for next year. All right, Mario. What are the most impactful events the last 25 years that have changed how Long Beach and maybe even other ports look at global supply chains?
Well, I think aside from the ones that John mentioned earlier, I think the other development was the coming of the alliances. If you remember, I was in Washington at the time as chairman of the FMC, and the first alliance filing was the P3. And at the time, there was a movement for this alliance model or structure to get to where the carriers needed to get to in the name of economies of scale. So I think that's one of the most significant changes in the carrier industry that impacted ports in a positive way. I mean, there's some concerns that were raised at the time, but when you think about it, that scenario there, beginning in year 2013, we had about 20 or 21 international carriers at that point in time. At the end of the last filing of the alliance, which was the alliance in 2016, there were 9 carriers. And to this day, that's about what we have in the US. So I think that structure not only changed how the carriers went about their business with ports around the world in terms of the alliance structure, but also changed the magnitude of what we now see, the MERS, the MSCs, the Costcos that are really driven now to move the cargo in a more efficient, cost-effective manner, but also going back to the issue of decarbonization, a real good coalition of people that are coming together to embrace that. So I think that's one of them. And then I think the other aspect in terms of Port of Long Beach is I mentioned the Green Port Policy, the 2016 action plan that we did together with the Port of LA, which really changed the whole conversation about efficiency, sustainable development, energy resiliency that we're talking so much about today. Mm-hmm. So now we're talking about, again, no net zero on or about 2050, according to the IMO, with the carrier and the industry embracing that. So I guess the next conversation now is going to be the carbon tax. And I'll let Peter write about that.
Well, we have our panel about that this afternoon.
Well, and this is just a great example of the conversations that it creates, right? Bringing people together to be able to have those conversations, create innovation, think about the future. Now, John, the evolution of technology, we can't do this without talking about technology. It's been a central focus for you. How effective has the industry been at adopting technology? And what do you think that AI will have as an impact to the industry over the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, I'm asking you to get out your crystal ball.
Sure. Well, first of all, I run a cloud-based platform myself for order management, and I've been building those for about 5 years. But I would say that, you know, where we are, we're in the dark ages. I mean, we don't.
Still?
Yeah,
How
still.
are we in 2025 and in the dark ages?
Well, you know, if my son goes on to Roblox, he shares data with his friends. We don't share data with anybody. You know, I mean, if you look at the supply chain, and you know, you're going to need to get data from the purchase order. You're going to need to get data from the factories, and you're going to need to get data from the ports, and the carriers. And there's a whole lot of data that has to come together. And if you've never done that, you realize how difficult it is when you try to do it. And there's companies that are trying, but nobody's done it. Nobody's really done it. I have an end-to-end platform. I have to go to 4 or 5 different sources to get that data and then aggregate it into a single database. But if you look at technology today, kids coming up, you know, they share data better. They understand it better. And we look at it as everything's proprietary, but it's really made to be shared.
Yeah, and that's going to be important moving forward for the future, I think, of the industry and some of the conversations around how do we get out of our own way and share some of that data, because I think that's really where the innovation is going to come from. And like you said, get us out of the dark ages.
Right.
All right, Mario, last question. Where does the Port of Long Beach go from here? In 2025 and beyond, what does the future look like?
Well, we're going to continue our visionary approach to things. So I think where we go from here is, number one, amplify rail connectivity. You know, our mega project right now is the Pier B Rail Enhancement Facility. It's going to go from 11 tracks to 48 tracks. Completion is going to be somewhere around 2031, 2032. It will be the state-of-the-art inner harbor rail facility, the largest of any port in the country.
Wow.
Now, when you think about that project, and unbeknownst to us when we started the project, which BNSF announced a year and a half ago, Now we have the Barstow International Gateway project, the big project, just 130 miles from here. That's going to be a project that BNSF will invest about 1.5 billion. That rail connectivity is going to be huge for us here in the San Pedro Bay complex. So where Long Beach goes is where we intended to go in terms of our vast investment in rail, in our rail facilities. Second, you notice I'm wearing my 24/7 pin. This morning, Soren Toff was asked a question about the challenges of U.S. ports. And he answered the question by saying, well, it's going to be an ongoing challenge of ports being congested. Now, by the way, we moved a record number at Port of Long Beach for 2024, 9.6 million, without any congestion or bottlenecks. But going forward, not only did Soren Toff say that, but I think last year, Peter, it was either last year or the year before, Jeremy Nixon of the ONE said the same thing. We need to move to a 24/7 model of operations. That is the next thing that I think will happen in the years to come. You know, the Port of Long Beach, we announced that during the supply chain crisis that we were going to pivot to have 24/7 demonstration projects, terminal operations. We did. Were they a huge success? No, but at least we broke the ceiling of having that conversation, because we must do that at some point and keep moving to 24/7 framework. We're not going to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week anytime soon, but expansion of hours and how we operate in the supply chain is going to be paramount for us here to be competitive.
Absolutely. Well, last word is for Peter. I want to know where TPM goes from here. What does it look like? What does the future look like? What can we expect?
We're going to continue to build TPM in exactly the way we've built it, meaning that we're going to keep...
No plan, no vision. Just kidding.
No plan, no vision, other than we're going to keep it focused on container shipping and supply chains, and we're not going to expand the scope. So that's number one. Number two, we're going to keep our program as independent as it always is and focused on the needs of cargo owners. And that is the bread and butter formula of TPM right from day one, which has not wavered or changed through 7 owners have owned TPM.
Wow.
Private equity, event company, information company, financial information company, and through it all, we have been quite steadfast in saying this is how we're going to continue to build TPM. We will continue to build it globally. So we believe that there are many BCOs out there in the world, located in APAC and the Middle East and Europe and Latin America and Australia, New Zealand, who would benefit greatly from coming to TPM.
Yes.
Because of the scale of ocean carriers, freight forwarders, other vendors, and information that's here. So that's the plan.
What an exciting future for TPM.
So hopefully it will, if we don't mess it up, then it will be, hopefully it will continue to grow and continue to provide great benefit to all the attendees who come.
Very exciting. Well, I can't wait to see the future of TPM, but congratulations on your 25th anniversary. It's, you know, a really big deal. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to celebrate with all of you and talk about the origin story and the history of TPM and why it's so important to the industry. So that's it for me on day one. Sarah Barnes Humphrey live at TPM, and I will see you here for day 2.